This review contains various spoilers, but does not show the fates of any characters except the final boss, and it generally avoids discussion of the story. Resident Evil Requiem is the first game in my 6 years of doing YouTube where I had no idea what to say about it when it was over. So much had happened, more than any game I'd ever played. It shifted drastically in tone, in gameplay, in setting, in story. My brain had melted from overstimulation, and I was disoriented from the whiplash. I want to start this review by focusing on what Requiem does extremely well, and that's creating emergent moments of gameplay through its map design, enemy behaviors, and resource management. Total Chaos and Trigger Happy Interactive are the sponsors of this video, here to announce the arrival of New Game Plus, coming to Total Chaos on March 16th. The terrifying, brutal, and mind-bending horror game, featuring a brand new track from Silent Hill composer Akira Yamaoka, is about to see a huge update that revamps every chapter, pushes combat and resource management to the limit, adds in nasty death animations, and introduces the frightening stalker enemy, the Hunter. Make it to safe zones, set traps to delay them, do whatever you can to survive. I've played New Game Plus myself. Many of you know I've done playtesting and consultation on Total Chaos, and this new game mode is a trip, full of surprises. Chapters play out completely different, and the deeper mechanics of the combat system shine brighter. March 16th, New Game Plus, Total Chaos. Back to the video. Because of the large size of the care center, the first map, and the various tasks you must complete, every player is going to end up navigating this map in their own way, leading to unique experiences. Your tasks have you constantly returning through previously seen rooms and hallways, forcing you to make tough decisions on who you're going to kill or leave alive so you can save your precious resources. Save rooms are spaced apart, contributing to the regular need to backtrack. Doors can be unlocked to create connections to earlier areas. The bar and lounge, for example, can be reached by going up the northwest stairway or going up the left stairway in the main hall. And once a door is unlocked from the other side, now you can reach the bar by way of the southwest stairway. The lower west side game room with the coin machines for unlockable bonus items is a room you'll visit multiple times, and as you do, the connecting hallway will change. At first, it's empty. Later, it's being patrolled by the giant chef. Later, if you open the pantry, you could have zombies walking around. Even later, once the mutations begin, you'll likely have a very deadly blister head nearby. To escape the care center, you have to find 3 items to open a door, and they will be found in different orders by different players, as there's no forced linear encountering of them. You could, in fact, end up in the basement level getting the quartz from Emily before getting the other 2 when you come back to the care center after Leon's mission. The map is thoughtful, interesting, scary, engaging, and evolving. It requires us to become familiar with it, to plan where we're going, and consider how we're going to make an area safe for the future. It's exactly what we want from a survival horror map, and it might actually be the greatest map in survival horror history. Nothing is ever going to be as iconic as the Spencer Mansion or the RPD or Brookhaven Hospital, but the actual layout and functionality of the care center is diamond class. Actually, I'm gonna say it, from a map design and gameplay perspective, this is the best map we've ever seen. And I know a lot of you are just smiling and nodding your heads right now. You know how good it is. A couple years ago, I made a video on how the Crimson Heads of the 2002 Resident Evil remake were showing up in other games lately. Enemies that mutate if they aren't disposed of. 2022's Signalis had you burning bodies so they didn't come back to life. 2023's Resident Evil 4 remake had Ganados randomly mutate into higher forms if you didn't run up and stab them in the neck, costing your knife's durability. And here we are in 2026 with Resident Evil Requiem and the Blister Heads, a far superior implementation of Crimson Head design, and a far deadlier one too. They are fast, they flail at you with multiple hits, they crawl, and they have a lot of HP. Thankfully, you have the Requiem, a huge revolver that blows their heads off, but ammo is super limited and only craftable after a lot of exploration. If you can prevent blister heads from appearing in important areas, you should do it. Instead of finding a specific resource like gas to burn them, this time we are crafting a chemical agent that causes enemies to swell up and explode. This chemical can be used on an already defeated enemy that you don't want to wake up and screw your backtracking route, but it can also be used as a stealth kill option, and if you find ways to stun blister heads, you can spend a chemical to kill them quickly. Since you're crafting these items yourself, every use and every creation of this chemical is a decision that weighs on you, because the resource used to craft them, infected blood collected from splatters, buckets, and transfusion bags, is the same resource used to craft ammo, healing items, expensive character upgrades, and extra ink ribbons to save your progress if you're playing on Classic Mode or Insane. There are so many enemies you can't possibly explode all of them. You don't have enough blood. Going for headshots against these erratically moving zombies means you're missing shots and you need to craft more ammo. If you're scared and saving too often, you'll be stuck needing to craft more saves. If you take a lot of damage, you need to make healing injections. There's just no way you're going to have more than 6 or 7 of these chemicals on your first playthrough of the care center. I said it. 67! We also have a bit of a push and pull through a more action horror style mechanic in that enemies will sometimes drop collectible blood. So you want to avoid them to save resources, but killing them might give you what you need to craft something important. Requiem's blood collection is the best use of crafting the series has ever seen. Tying it to saves was genius. But I will admit, it makes no sense compared to previous crafting systems. I mean, how does scrap metal plus blood equal handgun bullets? That's fine, I guess. I just love how much there is to think about and plan for, especially since the zombies have unique behaviors and can sometimes just wander into an area they aren't supposed to be in. Maybe they were attracted to the noise down the hall, or maybe they were just bored, I don't know. Some zombies will forget about you, some will follow you for a long time. And while this is a very zombie-centric game, arguably low in enemy variety, the true variety comes from unique enemy behaviors, visual designs, and a solid variety of special appearance units. 3 stalkers, a giant blister monster, some stuff I won't spoil yet, though I would have liked to see some kind of animal creature in the Return to the Care Center. The zombies this time around have memory of what they were doing before, so this cleaning lady zombie, madly scrubbing the mirror, will come out of the bathroom and go down 2 halls just to start cleaning the blood off the floor next to a zombie you killed. You're running through here thinking everything's cool, and bam, there she is. And you freeze in terror because she is a very fast and crazy enemy that you don't want to alert. Some zombies turn off lights and walk down the hall to turn off another one, which you can use to your advantage. Tying it all back to how I started this, emergent gameplay, you'll panic, you'll end up between 2 zombies in a hallway, you'll be surprised by a stalker, you'll clear different routes, you'll get a blister head in the worst place possible, you'll sneak around certain zombies and kill others. You'll use the fat mutant to squash a zombie blocking your way, or you'll use a bunch of resources to kill him. Every playthrough will go differently. Because of the special ways enemies behave, where mutations occur, the sounds you make, the resources you have, everyone is going to create memories special to them as the game world reacts to their decisions and throws surprises at them. I think it's an amazing thing. Knives can be used to get a zombie off you, and they're great ways to save handgun ammo. When you stun them, give them a couple stabs before you push them down, and then stab more on the ground. But be careful, knives eventually break, so don't abuse them. Before they break, convert them into scrap to be used for crafting. It's a brilliant system. Empty bottles are very rare, though not around my house, right? And they are very useful. You can distract enemies to open up a way out, you can craft Molotov cocktails later on, and a single bottle puts a zombie into stun even on insane difficulty. A truly life-saving option. There's no shotgun for Grace in the care center, no grenade launcher, just a dinky pistol and these chemical agents. You're underpowered against this terrifying house of horrors, and on the insane difficulty, it led to the most intense, stressful, punishingly difficult, and satisfying survival horror experience I've ever had, no exaggeration. Some will take issue with just how ridiculous the zombies are on Insane, with their jacked up speed and damage to the player and resistance to stun, but I thought it was great. They're so fast they can sometimes catch you, which makes you extra weary of alerting them. I loved the hopeless feeling it instilled in me. I died probably 100 times. I had to restart after a whole day of just inching through progress because I didn't have enough Requiem rounds to survive the isolation ward. It was the ultra-intense, resource-scarce fight against impossible odds that I've always been looking for. I recommend unlocking the SMG for Grace, even though it's pretty crappy and a big ammo suck, but it can really save your ass if a zombie gets too close. Before you get upgrades to your firepower, you basically need to try to avoid every zombie you can if possible. And this leads to pulse-racing moments of tension as you hold your breath and try to sneak by 2, even 3 zombies at once. I do think it's a missed opportunity to not have a hardcore difficulty between Standard, Classic, and Insane, but looking at the internal game values, Classic is actually harder than the normal Standard difficulty. It's not just the addition of ink ribbons. So I suspect most people will still have a decently tense experience with Standard Classic if they're looking for a challenge. At least enough to get them curious about Insane, and that's where the real meat is. Maybe calling it Standard Classic instead of Hardcore is a sneaky way to get casual players to play a version of the game that's actually harder and uses ink ribbons. But as I've said in many other videos, developers need to understand that there are fans that have been playing games in this genre for decades now, and they want to be able to dive into a more serious experience right off the bat. And while I found Standard Classic to be pretty fun, I'm sure there are plenty of veteran fans that didn't feel challenged as much as they'd like to be. And some of them aren't masochists that want to play Insane mode, so where's the game for them? I think this is a legitimate criticism to have, and the PC community is probably on it right now to create a custom difficulty setting. The only real disappointments for me are the lack of puzzles and the implementation of indicator prompts. Resident Evil puzzles typically aren't complicated. Look at a painting and determine where the blades are pointing, that's where the hands go on the clock, that kind of stuff. But sometimes they get pretty tough. RE3's water sample puzzle is notoriously difficult, and the RE2 Remake's B-Scenario chess piece puzzle is one of the best designed riddle-based puzzles that I know of, and the B-Scenario mixing station puzzle's really good too. So there's a wide variety. Thankfully RE9 doesn't have anything as bad as Village's worst puzzles, but there's nothing that great either. I thought it was cute that you have to look at 2 pictures and notice the half combination sequences in the background. That was nice. The laboratory blood puzzles are okay. The game has puzzles, I just think survival horror fans are gonna want more. I'm not too upset about it because every other aspect of the survival horror experience has been so expertly executed. As for the indicator issue, it's good to see Capcom take a step back from the egregious use of yellow paint in the RE4 remake, which was the cultural tipping point that made yellow a widespread controversy in 2023. They're still using yellow to signify some objects, but it's far more tastefully done this time around, and it isn't happening constantly. The majority of Grace's sections don't do it at all, and the breakable boxes simply have a yellow sticker on it, like the supply boxes in Half-Life 2. Totally fine, it's not a big yellow painted X screaming, "Break me!" I'm not saying that stuff never happens, but it's not a widespread problem. However, something I've really come to dislike over the past years is the overuse of indicators. It's just as bad as yellow paint because the game is telling you what to interact with and what to look at by putting indicator bubbles on everything at a distance. If you get a button prompt when you're close to something, fine, but sometimes you're far away from even being able to notice something with your eyes and the game is already putting a bubble on screen for you to follow. And it's not nearly as fun to find items this way as it is to notice them yourself. I get why they do it. The sheer number of things you can pick up and interact with means you gotta signal it to players. There's a lot of darkness, you're running around, spinning the camera everywhere. It's much easier to overlook something important than it is with a fixed camera where the angle actually draws your attention to points of interest. 3D items stood out more against painted backgrounds. Sharp, obvious color contrast drew your eyes to items. And when needed, you could add a little shimmer to highlight an item when the graphics get more realistic. I'd much rather them add a subtle shimmer or really bump up the color contrast, instead of just slapping these stupid white bubbles on everything. At least reduce the distance that they appear at so I gotta look around and inspect places more myself. And hey, Capcom, I know what button to press to heal, okay? You don't have to tell me every time I'm near death. I know what to do already. Okay, at least the core aspects of the experience are strong enough to make up for this annoying handholdy shit. Still, if Silent Hill 2 Remake and Chronos The New Dawn can offer us the option to disable these interaction bubbles and just leave a shimmer, or even remove that too, all for a more immersive horror experience, why can't Resident Evil? Between the 2 visits to the care center, you find yourself in the underground power station, and wow, this is another highlight of the game. The map itself is a little puzzle figuring out where to find and place power nodes to open doors, dealing with zombies that mutate at the center connecting area, and avoiding the main stalker enemy who's allergic to bright lights. We get a fun little action section on a conveyor belt with a meat grinder. It's pretty cool. It's much shorter than the house above, but very satisfying. You rescue Emily and escape in the elevator, and then we get a moment that was truly shocking. The monster has your leg in her hands when the elevator breaks. You hear the snap of flesh and think, oh my god, Grace just lost her fucking leg. She's laying there shaking in fear, the camera not showing her leg yet. And you know this could be real, cause Ethan lost his arm to a chainsaw in RE7. This game is from the same director. But then we get the reveal, the elevator actually took off the monster's arm instead.
Oh my god. Okay. Oh my god. Oh, that was good.
It would have been a pretty interesting shakeup to suddenly be in control of a one-legged Grace, but the emotional high of the scene was enough. Depending on how efficient you were with Leon and which order you picked up the main puzzle pieces, you'll either still be dealing with a few enemy encounters as Grace, or simply be walking around collecting blood and exiting pretty quickly. But after you leave the main map for the second time, finally reaching the outside, the survival horror part of this game is over for a very long time. There's a pretty fun run and gun section in a laboratory where you're spraying zombies with the chemical that makes them explode, running through pools of blood, trying to escape half a dozen blister heads, and finally you reach the helicopter to fly away, which crashes near a chapel and Leon has to come save the day. And before we get into Leon, I just want to say that I think Grace is the best Resident Evil character since Jill Valentine. Setting aside my own bias because she looks like my crush Carrie Coon, I find the way she reacts to the situation very believable. I love how when she has to follow the beast underground to rescue Emily, her fear causes her to hesitate, like anyone would. The actual story of Grace is one that I'm not interested in, but I really liked playing as her and hearing her reactions.
Weird. How do people normally get in here?
Grace has a short section of hide and seek with the main stalker enemy, and then some story stuff happens that I won't spoil. But it's here that we meet what I guess is the real villain of the story. See, this whole time we've only seen this guy Victor, a pretty creepy dude that's doing experiments and stuff. He has a big interest in Grace. Apparently, he wasn't enough to keep things moving, so they introduce villain number 2, some knockoff Wesker with white hair and sunglasses. He speaks ominously about Grace's true purpose in Raccoon City, then it's time to go there. So let's get to Leon. This is also an action horror game, 2 in 1, as we take control of old man Leon Kennedy looking about as good as I do, running around blasting and blowing up everything. It's odd. At first I thought, okay, Leon's sections are just going to be fun little diversions between the big survival sections. A pacebreaker, a nice little pacebreaker. I didn't mind it, it was fun enough. I'm a fan of RE4, both the original and remake. Sure, let's have some shooty, kicky fun in between. Then we arrive at the destroyed Raccoon City, which is seriously impressive. The RE3 remake's greatest failure was not allowing us to actually see Raccoon City the way the original did. And, well, better late than never, I guess. Everything's destroyed, but I really liked being able to just walk around and look at everything. We finally get to explode the Stagla gas station from the original RE3. It's during the apocalypse, but whatever, the city looks amazing, truly impressive what they've done here. Leon is exploring the city looking for 3 pieces of a detonator to blow up a wall that's blocking his way to the center of the blast zone. This is not a pacebreaker from Grace. Leon essentially takes over the game at this point, and he does it in a bizarre tonal shift that suddenly introduces combat points and buying stuff at the shop, and it's like, no, we had a good, mostly grounded horror experience going here. I don't want this now. This will be the most polarizing section of the game because it's not only a weird shift, it's also very long as you're going through 5 areas of the city. Personally, I was able to adapt to the change in about an hour and I had fun with it. It wasn't amazing and it did overstay its welcome, but you know, it's fun to shoot zombies and Resident Evil has been a tonal mess of a series for decades, so it's fine, I guess. The gore really helps sell it. Requiem is far more gory than the series has ever been. Leon's getting sawed in half by chainsaw guys, Grace is getting eaten by giant monstrosities and sawed in half herself. I don't know how I'm getting this zombie to eat a shotgun, but it's awesome. It's a disgusting game that doesn't shy away from the horror of this situation, and I love it. Ever since I was a kid, my favorite thing was shooting out the torsos of the RE2 zombies and seeing their organs fall out. So this is just what I wanted. Leon in the city may not make everyone happy, but for those who straight up disliked it and saw it as just a watered down RE4 remake, I ask you to play it again on Insane mode, if you can get that far, because I think Leon's sections are a fucking blast on Insane. They remix the fights a little by adding in a few spicy surprises. The hatchet becomes a much more necessary tool to use, which makes the sharpening of it and investing into durability actually feel meaningful, and the enemies are just so wild that you have to be a lot more tactical. It's less shooting gallery and more fight for your life and use everything you got. The stun mechanic plays greatly into it, using grenades, throwable weapons, and even wall splats to send Blister Heads into their execution state early, because they have so much health that just shooting them to death is actually pretty hard. I did a little video on how to use the stun mechanic, check it out. Resources feel more scarce as enemies are harder to kill, so you gotta lean into individual weapon utility more. This is what I liked about the high difficulty settings of the RE4 remake, and I'll say it again here. Not getting easy guaranteed stun states from pistol shots benefits the gameplay in a few ways. It makes you scared to let zombies get close to you, so you want to snipe them. And when they do get close, you pull out the shotgun. This drains your ammo for those power weapons faster, which in turn makes you want to use the pistol whenever possible at mid-range, and as killing shots on low health enemies. And then there's more value to grenades for damaging or stopping crowds, and putting high danger enemies into the elusive stun state that you're just not getting from the pistol. It pushes you to use your entire arsenal. Isn't that the fun zone we want? It works brilliantly on Insane mode, and I hope everyone who can handle it at least gives it a chance. Maybe you won't love it the way I do, but you might appreciate it. I don't think it's a weaker version of RE4, I think it just has its own kind of depth, and it's far more violent, which is awesome. The city sections definitely flow better on replay when you know where you're going. Beware of the spider boss though. On Insane, you are not getting past her if you don't have like 7 Requiem bullets, so make sure you're stockpiling them through the previous missions. So, this has all been good, but after these missions in the city, the game goes downhill fast. Things get extra ridiculous as we're basically dropped into Resident Evil 6, chasing the villain on a motorcycle, driving up the side of a building to fly into the air in slow motion, shooting dogs with an infinite amount of bullets, playing chicken. It's just dumb. If you have tutorials enabled, which most people will on their first playthrough because you don't want to miss some important new information, it tells you over and over to shoot. Hey dummy, shoot! Remember how to shoot? Do that! My god, how badly did these playtesting sessions go? And then we get to the Raccoon City Police Department, the ultimate nostalgia trick the game plays on us. It works, it's pretty cool seeing this old location decades later, but it is the RPD from the remakes. I think it would have been way cooler to see the real classic RPD, since this is a mainline entry in the series, so it should be following from the original RE3. But then the RPD wouldn't even be here because it was so obviously obliterated in the blast, and the original director's intention was for the city to have been completely destroyed. Hear more about that in my RE3 video featuring information learned from my interview with director Kazuhiro Aoyama. Link below. You don't really do anything in the RPD, just walk around until you get to the next story bit, which is unfortunately where the game falls off a cliff. Knockoff Wesker is here with Grace, doing stuff, and instead of just telling us about the past, we are forced to play it. And I use the word play very loosely, because this is just a long, boring, tedious walking section where you play as a kid at the Raccoon City Orphanage, hiding under a bed as bald clone children with glowing red eyes hunt for you. It's so bad, dude. It goes on, slowly climbing and hiding. It's just awful. It's so bad that I really struggled to find the strength to get through it a second time on my insane playthrough. Thank God the modders have found a way to skip this section on PC. About 40 hours later, back in our time, Leon barges in to take shots at the Wesker wannabe, and of course, since he's like Wesker, he can teleport. And here you realize that this game is an unfocused mess. Then Mr. X shows up. A 30-year-old bio-experiment is just here, ready to attack at the order of this guy. And it feels like the most desperate pandering any game has done ever. Oh my god, I remember Mr. X, cool! Welcome to a Mr. X chase through the RPD, like RE2 Remake, but without anything that made those chases work because it's just a linear route to escape and you're not dealing with any other enemies, which was the whole reason Mr. X was a threat in the first place. Then he mutates into the exact form he did at the end of RE2, gotta shoot him in the heart again. What are we doing here? Why is this game that started with so much good original content devolving into a roller coaster ride through Nostalgia Town? Can we get back to Grace walking around a big spooky map? This Leon stuff has fully worn out its welcome at this point. Well, no, we get to the city center and go underground to fight a giant plant. Hey, remember when you fought Plant 42 in RE1 30 fucking years ago? Well, here's Plant 43. Cheap nostalgia has completely taken over the game, with the Wesker wannabe, Mr. X, going back to the RPD, going back to the orphanage, another giant plant, and then we go down into the lab and it's a boss fight against Hunk? What? Hunk is down here? I mean, they don't say it's Hunk, but they certainly present him like he is. This is just fan fiction at this point. Oh, you know what would be awesome? What if the Wesker wannabe found a way to bring back Krauser by turning him into the new Nemesis? Yeah, Krauser-Nemesis hybrid, that would be so cool! But the nostalgia overdose doesn't stop there. When we finally do take back control of Grace, far late to be excited about it, we have Lickers, again. Look, it's fine for an enemy type to return. I like the hunters coming back in RE3, but things have just gone too far. And now we're in another white-walled laboratory, a map that's a fraction of the quality of the care center, though let's be honest, at this point who wants to do 4 more hours of exploration? I just want it to be over already. It feels like Grace should be getting a new weapon in this final chapter to freshen up the gameplay, but she only gets acid bottles to deal with the Lickers. It's just not a great part of the game. You eventually take control of Leon again and run through the lab blasting everything. Then you get to the final boss. Dodge stuff, shoot him, parry stuff. Then he mutates just like they made Nemesis mutate in the RE3 remake. A big stationary monstrosity with bubbles you have to pop. I'm not going to spoil the ending, I don't have much to say about it anyway. Wow, this review really took a downturn, huh? We went from describing in detail the best survival horror experience I've had in my life to some fun, gory combat that admittedly goes on too long, to a bunch of nostalgia-drenched fanboy pandering and unskippable set pieces and walkie story dumps. Sorry to drag you down into such negativity, but while we're here, let's list some isolated issues. You take damage just by being touched. And okay, they want you to take some damage even if you push them off before a bite. Fine. But if they don't even enter a grab animation, I shouldn't lose half my health bar because the tip of a zombie's finger touched my shoulder right before I killed him. You also take damage during animations. Look at this spider nearly killing me during this long animation of Leon jumping up to climb a ladder. It's like a 4-second animation that you can't do anything about. These should be invulnerable states. RE4 Remake had the same problem. And for everyone saying it's fine because it's realistic, yeah, well, it's not realistic to be able to pick up items while reloading your shotgun, is it? But they let you do that because it makes gameplay smooth. It isn't a simulator. And you're invincible during the throw animation for the gas can, but not this? There's no logic to it, and it feels like bullshit. So give me a break with the realism argument. It's a fucking video game, and it feels bad to be taking damage during animation states like this. And last, but certainly not least, the field of view. You've likely noticed the changing FOV throughout this very long video. Yep, I modded the game soon after I got it, but I didn't actually use it until I finished the game, so I got the vanilla experience. I think it's stupid as hell that RE2 and RE4 have FOV sliders, but RE7, 8, and 9 don't. I understand they're going for a claustrophobic experience, but I don't need to feel claustrophobic in my vision. I'm literally in a small space. I already feel claustrophobic. Resident Evil 1 felt claustrophobic, and that was with fixed camera angles where I could see way more than I can in first person. Especially with Grace, an FOV tweak makes the game look and feel much better. When it's so damn restrictive, every time I turn around quickly or face a wall, I legitimately get motion sickness. A lot of people do, and I don't need that on top of zombies chasing me. Adjusting the FOV isn't some violation of artistic vision, especially when there are many other visual accessibility options already, and it's very likely that devs limit the FOV not for artistic reasons or gameplay intent, but to stabilize frame rates by not having to show as much of the image. So screw that, I'm raising the FOV, and if you have a problem with it, I don't care, I probably don't like you anyway. It's not like we're changing the game from fixed camera to over the shoulder and fundamentally altering the gameplay. It's not a genre change, and I will always defend being able to change the FOV and removing the stupid amount of aim zoom that makes your character's head take up half the screen and cuts off your peripheral vision. Look at this, no aiming zoom, just beautiful. My Doom buddy Maynard said it best on stream.
But I got an FOV mod for this, by the way. I'm running the RE framework. It's captured, so you can see it. Because this would be straight up unplayable if I didn't have it. There are people that think that, you know, they're wrong. These people that think this are wrong, just to get that out of the road. But there are people out there that legitimately believe that if you raise the FOV, but the developer didn't put an FOV slider in the game, that you are polluting the game and their artistic vision by raising the FOV to a playable status for yourself. I mean, look, even though it's a single-player game, if you prefer to have it that way, then just do it, whatever. Like, even if it's just a preference, go for it. But some people, like myself, literally cannot play games with low FOV because it makes me motion sickness. I would not be able to play Resident Evil 7, 8, or 9 if it wasn't for the fact that I could put in RE Framework mod from Nexus Mods in there, put in a DLL file, and then just raise the FOV slightly. If I couldn't do that, I couldn't play 3 of the last Resident Evil games. You cheater, you fraud, respect the artistic vision. So if a developer doesn't put colorblind options in their game, but we get upset about it, is it because, hey, not having colorblind options was their artistic vision? Hey, making motion blur untoggleable and adding bloom that is that you can't turn off and chromatic aberration, it's their artistic vision. Sure, it gives you headaches and makes you sick, but fuck you. It's what the developer wants. Oh, you're colorblind? Fuck you. My artistic vision says that I'm going to use the colors that 90% of the world can see. You're part of those people that get motion sick when you use VR headsets or when the FOV is low? Fuck you. Just don't play the game then. Baby. Oh, you've got a peanut allergy? Why are you weak? Harden the fuck up.
Okay, this review has ended up in a weird place, and I don't like how negative it's gotten, so I'm gonna bring it back around to the good and wrap it up. Despite its many issues, and the game cratering once the motorcycle sequence starts, the good on offer is so good that it makes Resident Evil Requiem the best of the modern Resident Evil sequels. No contest. It's far more interesting and engaging than RE7, and a rotten ham sandwich is better than Village. The Care Center, in its map design and gameplay, especially on Insane, is the crowning achievement of the entire survival horror genre since its origin decades ago. The basement level with the Stalker and Blister Heads is very cool. Leon's a fun diversion, and on Insane provides a lot of tactical combat. The stun mechanic is great. The over-the-top violence and huge variety of death animations made me smile and laugh and recoil in disgust. Grace is a sympathetic character. There's a few cool musical themes. When I think about my time in Requiem, I think about the good to the excellent. About how a game hasn't had me running scared this much since Amnesia the Bunker. It makes me want to start a new playthrough. But then I think about where it goes, and how I'm gonna want to stop when it gets to the motorcycle and the RPD and the orphanage sequence. My excitement for opening the game again deflates, because who wants to just repeatedly play the first half of a game? I don't need to feel that a game is replayable in order to say it's great. Some of the games I've rated the highest are games I only played once and never wanted to play again. I'm okay with a one-and-done experience. But Resident Evil, since the original in 1996, has been a series that encourages replays through its ranking system, in-game timer, unlockable items, alternate endings and choices. So, as a fan of the series, it hurts a bit to get a game that is so goddamn good that I want to replay it a bunch of times to master it, but that sucks so much in the last chapters that I decide it's not even worth it. I don't know if this has ever happened to me. I think I'm going to leave it there. You'll notice I haven't talked about the story because, as many of you know, I stopped caring about Resident Evil's story after Nemesis nicely wrapped up the trilogy. And then Wesker came back from the dead and started teleporting. I just don't care about these mind control plots and ladies shooting fireblood and cloning programs ripped straight from the movies and buff suit-wearing anime villains. If you care about all the Umbrella lore and what Leon's been up to and all that, you'll have to go to another channel for that stuff, because I have nothing to offer. In the end, I think Requiem is, in large part, an excellent game. One that I'm happy to say I'm a fan of, with some caveats. As soon as my check clears from Capcom, I'll retract most of my criticisms, but it really feels good to be able to say I kinda love the new Resident Evil game, the first one in 5 years, after hating the last one. It's been a long time, so this very imperfect sequel has made me mostly happy. It has my recommendation even if it goes off the rails, because you really should experience all the parts they did well. That's it, that's the review. Make sure you check out New Game Plus for Total Chaos, and take a look around the channel for something you might enjoy, or hate, whatever floats your boat. If you like these videos, you can join my Patreon to support my independence as a content creator. Hello to all the old and new patrons, and YouTube members, you're all great. I'll see you in the next video, or whenever you decide to come around again. And just before I go, I want to say that I'm looking forward to this comment section, because I have a theory. No matter how horrible people get when you criticize a game they like, I believe people are way more hostile when you actually like something that they think sucks. So let's put that theory to the test right now, and see what the reaction is from people coming to my channel assuming that I'm just automatically going to agree with them when they hate a new game. That's not how I operate. Thank you to all the new and old viewers, thank you to the survival horror fans, and the God of War, Mortal Kombat, and Doom fans that have crossed over to watch my other stuff. Thank you to everyone who has been here since the beginning, and that's it. Bye.